All right, welcome back to. I was about to say NBA University. It's been a while since
That happened to me the other day.
felt like we had a classroom situation. Welcome back to the Sports Addicts podcast. This is the NCAA edition, and for this one, we're going to talk about the ACC, specifically the top three teams: Duke, Virginia, and UNC, who are supposed to be a little bit better than they have been so far. But first, last time we did this, we talked about Keontae Johnson. So update on him. He's out of the hospital now, which is huge. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. Back home and recovering. Unfortunately, it sounds like he suffered from myocarditis, which is heart inflammation, and it was linked to his COVID um, sickness a few months ago. So that's kind of scary, and there's probably a lot more that's going to come out of that. And this is why like the Big Ten decided not to play their football season this year at first, and then opted back in, obviously. But still, number one thing, Keontae Johnson's out of the hospital, and he's getting better. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. So we want to start with that, with some good news. And then for the podcast purposes, we are just going to kind of talk about the three teams in the ACC that were supposed to finish at the top. The way they're playing right now, not exactly on pace to finish at the top, but we're going to talk about some things that we think are wrong with them, and then how they can get better. So our first team is going to be Duke, obviously. 3-2 right now. They've lost to Michigan State and Illinois. Both Michigan State and Illinois have taken some recent losses that probably they shouldn't have, which kind of makes that Duke loss, or the losses for Duke, look a little bit worse, but still both good teams. And Duke's a really young team in a weird season, so not the worst situation ever. And then they did just finish up with a good win over Notre Dame, which is important. So Matthew Hurt leading the way with 19 points and 8 rebounds, pretty much. I rounded up a little bit, but playing pretty well. And then the freshmen, specifically DJ Stewart, Jeremy Roach, and Jamin Brakefield, have really stepped up, especially the last two games, and have looked a lot better. So for you, Michael, what's your biggest issue with this Duke team, and how can we fix it?
I think the biggest thing offensively is allowing the freshmen to be put in a position where they don't have to make complex reads, or they don't are put on an island where they're going to have to make something happen, just really off a standstill. I think a lot with their offense are catching the ball. It's early in the clock and they're just going to a pick and roll, and really not having any momentum going into the pick and roll. And help side's always there. There's not many secondary actions on the weak side, so it's causing help side to be there early, and the freshmen are having a hard time reading it consistently. And I think offensively, you want to get them in a position where they're attacking a closeout, they're attacking off of a screen, and getting them moving early in the shot clock, so that they're not put in a position at the end of the shot clock where they're having to go into an isolation situation, especially in this season where you're not getting a lot of reps. They had no scrimmages. You're not practices were pretty limited. You're having these huge gaps in between games. There's very limited film to watch. So when you have a very young team, and even with the upperclassmen there's not a ton of guys that have a ton of logged minutes. So I just think they need to simplify and slow down the offense for the younger guys, and use Matthew Hurt more as a beneficiary to any kind of motion, where he's catching the ball shooting, not going into a mid-range isolation like he's Kevin Durant or anything like that. So that would be my initial fix, is just trying to get a simpler, and we'll go into some film about it to show more what I'm talking about, but getting a simpler offense for and more actions for the freshmen.
As much as he shoots like Dirk Nowitzki, he's not quite Dirk yet. Hopefully, he'll get there by March. That's my hope. But so that's the main thing for me too. Offensively, just trying to be more cohesive and like actually have an offense. So I think even Coach K would admit it. Like going back to, for me, it's probably like Jason Tatum's year. Like he, as Duke's gotten more one and dones and like higher talent base, the offense has just kind of disappeared over the years. Like with Jason Tatum, he kind of felt good with like, okay, let's just give it to Tatum, like see what he can do one-on-one, because he's a great one-on-one scorer. It really highlighted itself 2 years ago with Zion and RJ. Like as good of a ball handler as Trey was and as good of a point guard as he is, there was no offense whatsoever. It was like, let's just get RJ in a pick and roll. Like, let's get him with Zion rolling to the hoop. Let's post Zion and throw it in and hope something good happens. So I think he's trying to help the freshmen. Previously, he was trying to give them the ball and just like let them go. But this team, that's not working really. And he said, Chris Carroll actually said that this team, they thought like we were just going to be able to go 5 out. Whoever has the ball is going to be able to just break their man down and drive, and then it's going to be driving kicks. And like after 2 games, he's like, we literally can't do that. Like I thought we could do that, and we just have no ability to do that. So the guards, specifically like Jeremy Roach, didn't get a lot of time early, and it was mostly because he wasn't playing great. And then when he got his confidence up, like the Illinois game, he really started to pick it up. He's really like the only guy with Jalen Johnson out right now. Jeremy Roach and a little bit of DJ Stewart are like the only guys that can really break somebody down one-on-one and then get by. So the fact that you're trying to build your whole offense on a driving kick, but you only have really like 1.5 players that can actually accomplish the driving kick is tough. So now that they have to go into more of an offense, they did a lot better against Notre Dame. Still have a lot to go, like we're about to show you, but that was a big part. And really, I think most of their struggles are just their freshmen have not really grown up as quickly as, I don't even know if we should have said it as quickly as we expected, but like they're 5 games into the freshman season, like they're gonna figure it out. So another thing that we were actually talked about this before we started recording, but like we both think Mark Williams has to play a lot more minutes. They're at the 5 position. It's mostly Matthew Hurt. Patrick Tape had played. He started the game against Notre Dame, which was the first game Jalen Johnson missed, so he was out of the starting lineup, and played like 8 minutes, I think, or 7 minutes, and just was really bad. And we're about to show you a really funny defensive clip about that, actually. But Mark Williams is just so long, so athletic, and erases a lot of freshman mistakes on defense. And then offensively, he's been competent, which is really all you can ask for from a center. And for whatever reason, Coach K really doesn't trust young centers whatsoever. Really, the last like if your name's not Wendell Carter, Marvin Bagley, or Jaleel Okafor, you're not really playing a lot as a young big. So that's really most of my issues. The turnovers were a big problem to begin with. Again, young team, but they've kind of knocked those down recently with the, I guess I'll say, commitment to Jordan Goldwire and Jeremy Roach as the backcourt, and a lot less of Wendell Moore, which is really funny because I kind of almost thought he had a chance to be like an all ACC player this year, and he actually has a better chance of never playing again. So that's terrifying. But so before we get to a quick look at, we have like 4 clips for you. Before we get to that, I got a question for you. So Jalen Johnson, probably going to be out probably like 1 or 2 more games with Duke's extended break for Christmas time. When he was on the court, they kind of tried to rely on him as like a hero, and he's not really there yet in his game. He's still very raw, but he's obviously crazy talented. So given that Duke has to go to more of an offense, and they are obviously making that commitment, what does that look like with Jalen Johnson back in the lineup, where most likely, as much as we're going to plea for Mark Williams to play, it's going to be Jalen at the 4 and Matthew Hurt at the 5?
Yeah, the offense with Jalen Johnson definitely changes a bit compared to just having like a Matthew Hurt, Mark Williams front court. I think what I would try to do is continue running. They run the floppy offense, and we'll show you exactly what that means. Continue running that. Continue getting to side pick and rolls with Stewart, with Roach, with Goldwire, and using more of Hurt and Mark Williams as the screeners, and then doing some backside actions with Jalen Johnson where he doesn't have the pressure to create an isolation, but he can get the ball on the weak side. So you can have him on the 2-man side. So we have a pick and roll with a shooter in the corner, and then Jalen Johnson and another guard or a forward setting a screen for him, where he's coming off a pin down, he's coming off a flare screen, something where he's getting some sort of action where he can catch the ball and the defense is at a disadvantage early. I would rather see him develop the offense first, where he's catching the ball with the defense having a disadvantage more often than not. And that way he can sort of gain confidence, get more comfortable putting the ball on the floor and getting to the rim than he is right now. Because before he got hurt, I think he kind of settled outside because a lot of times he was guarding the guy guarding him was set. There was help side right there. It was hard for him to get into the paint without dig downs and just help side being there. So trying to get him more on the 2-man side and off action and getting him easy shots and paint touches as much as possible is what I would do.
Yeah. So if you want to start pulling up the film, I can stall a little bit with my extensive Duke breath, but I think he could play really well in like the Zion role of just like screen, stay around the paint, and try to get him the ball in a spot where all he has to do is take 1 or 2 dribbles and attack because he's ridiculously athletic. And thanks for covering up that Chelsea score. But so if you want to start talking about this film a little bit, we can get into that.
Yeah, so so we'll just first talk about what their offense is. So the floppy offense, basically, easy way to get into it is just passing it to the wing here. Goldwire is going to come around, put his head under the rim, and then we're going to have, it looks like Jalen Johnson lift up here, catch the ball at the top of the key. So Goldwire is under the rim, ball's at the top of the key. So floppy offense is you have a single side screener, so Matt Hurt right here, and a double side. So Stewart is going to come down here, Mark Williams is right here. This is going to be the double screen. Jordan Goldwire has his option. He can either go off the single side or double side. What Coach K specifically wants in this type of offense, it's a little bit different than anyone that runs this. So Golden State, I think during their run, their famous 4-year run where they were in finals every year, ran this all the time for Steph and Clay. So you would put Steph here, Clay here. Steph would come off one
Exactly
of
the same as Jordan Goldwire.
yeah. But what it does is it puts pressure on the defense because you don't know which way he's coming off. He comes off and then he's setting the screen and then he comes off another screen. Like if Goldwire comes this way, Stewart goes the opposite way. So that puts a lot of pressure on the bottom floor. And then you have a playmaker here like Draymond. So Duke runs this all the time, but Coach K wants a curl here. He wants easy mid-range shots, paint touches. But what Duke is doing a lot is what Goldwire does here. Is just catches it going towards half court. The defense is one here. This is what they want out of this offense. Stewart's going to come back out to the wing. Jalen Johnson's just going to exchange. There's no pressure on the backside. And Mark Williams goes high. So this is a 60-foot pass right here to get to the corner. So he can help out a lot. That's a long pass. That's not going to hurt them if they make that pass. So and then they're fronting Matt Hurt. So Illinois is in perfect offense. This is where Duke stops running any kind of action and they just rely on their talent. So now Matt Hurt's in isolation. You got 4 guys out, and they're not really doing much. Mark Williams is just kind of be stuck in this area here. Goldwire can't really go anywhere. If he goes corner, that's too close. He's just got to kind of stay here. And Stewart, same thing. If he lifts up here, he's right behind Mark Williams. If he could cut back door here, but they don't run that much. They don't have that natural instinct to just basket cut, and if it's not there, get out. And again, Jalen Johnson has to stay wide to try to make him space. So very little action. He ends up hitting this jump shot, but again, they're not running a ton. They do this again, floppy offense right into a pick and roll. Now everyone's just kind of standing around. It looks like this is a run for a Mark Williams isolation. I doubt that. That was the purpose, but this is what they get out of it.
Can you stop it for a second?
Yep.
So the difference for me between this play and the Matthew Hurt play, so Mark Williams, Jordan Goldwire, and Jalen Johnson were on the court with Hurt. And to say that those 3 are not shooters is a slight understatement. And then on this one, you have Wendell Moore, who's struggling mightily, but then Jeremy Roach is at the top of the key, Jamin Brakefield is off to the right, and then Joey Baker is like right wing. So even though it's not exactly what you want, the fact that you at least now, like the increased minutes for Brakefield means that there's going to be a lot more space out here, and same with Jeremy Roach. So I think the difference in Duke's offense hasn't necessarily been that they're running an offense, but it's that they have the right players on the court. So now there's way more minutes for Roach and there's way more minutes for Brakefield. Both guys can score a lot, can extend the defense. So even though you don't want to run this play for Mark Williams, you still have a 7-footer in a relatively easy back to the basket situation.
Yeah, and so when we go back to it, too, we talked about this a little bit before. So getting to the pick and roll here, this is fine. I would like Mark Williams to take a step back to where Joey Baker is. That's called the dunker, the short corner. Joey Baker go corner, and Wendell Moore kind of push more over here to the wing. This way gives space for this this pick and roll to happen, him to come off, and Brakefield to come down and dive, or he can pop. There's much more space because this is the two-man side. There's an empty corner, so there's no help side there. So he's got a lot of space to dive. But again, they kind of he stays high. This gives the help side closer. So Roach can't get a clean straight line drive or attack this hip of the big coming off flat. Mark Williams is there, so he's right on the block. So help sides early from a paint perspective. And Joey Baker is kind of lifting. So now he's stepping in front of Mark Williams and he can help more. So this just crowds everything. He has to take a retreat dribble and kind of give up on that pick and roll, and nothing happened out of it. So I think there's ways to attack a pick and roll a little bit better that they have. And then when Wendell Moore enters into the post, Joey Baker's clearing out. So now he should have a one-on-one opportunity completely and should go baseline side just because there's no one going to be here. There's going to be a lot more help in the middle. But when Wendell Moore makes this pass, considering he's a very poor shooter, there's much better shooters on the floor. I would like to see him set a screen for Stewart or just rub action here. He just cuts to the wing here and he follows. Doing something other than following his pass and just kind of moving around to move around. But I mean, they score both those possessions. It's just they're working really hard to get points and get buckets. So I think there's a much easier way. And then here we're looking more on defense. They're very disconnected defensively right now. I mean, they're rated well defensively. They do well. They do things well defensively. But right now, I'm not sure what Goldwire is doing here. There might be miscommunication where there should have been a press, like a 2-2-1 press. But no one's here, and he just he's just kind of by himself. And then this is the disconnect I'm talking about. Is we have was that top A?
Yeah.
3-quartering the post here, but there's no backside help. So if you're playing top side, there's got to be someone behind you because there's no one corner to help out with this. This is this is the easiest post pass you'll have in college. So he makes this pass and there's no help. Like Hurts attached to his guy, Stewart's attached to his guy. We got not sure
Stewart.
who that is. Stewart. I thought that's Roach. Sorry. Stewart's up top, Roach is here. Yeah, so all these guys are attached on the backside. Goldwire's not pressuring, so it's a really easy pass for him. He just has to get this pass to this hand. He rolls to the rim and he gets fouled. But if we're gonna have 3-quarter defense on this side, we got to have help side on the back. So I think that's just where the disconnect comes. Here's much better defensively.
But like just play behind that guy. Like Juwan Durham's not going to score over most people in the post. Like there's no reason to. A steal there does nothing for you. It's either going to be a foul or a dunk. Like just play behind them.
Yeah, the reason you play 3-quarters is to deny a guy to get the ball or make it harder on him. Yeah, I agree. Or especially in kind of secondary transition, play in the baseline side because your help's coming into the picture. It's not coming from behind. But yeah, there's just
like Notre Dame has 4 shooters on the court right now that are lights out, and then they have a big that doesn't score. So like you're not getting help from anybody.
Here was just a really good possession. This is what they're capable of when they're all on the same page. So it's just a double drag screen at the top to start the offense. They do a good job of Brakefield hedging. He's a little bit more active. Mark Williams is he's legit 7 foot, can protect the rim, so he's just going to drop. Joey Baker does a good job staying with the shooter. And Brakefield does a really good job of getting back to the shooter. So off this pick and roll, he's got nothing. Brakefield's there for the tag on the dive from the screen. Wendell Moore is in perfect health. I would like to see him more butt to the baseline so you can see both, because this could be a backdoor cut. But he's in the right spot. Mark Williams does a great job protecting the rim. Great closeout by Wendell Moore. Breakfield's there, and then Baker gets a good contest, and they missed a shot. So I think Duke does a lot of things well. It's just they're working harder than they need to.
All right, so that's Duke. Next up is Virginia. If you couldn't tell by our teaser with the video right there,
Yeah.
so they're 4-1 right now. They haven't really beaten anybody good, but they do have a loss to San Fran, not the 49ers, University of San Francisco. And then their next 3 games are Gonzaga, Notre Dame, and Virginia Tech. So basically, they better figure it out pretty quick, or else they might be in trouble. Trivia for you: there's 357 teams in college basketball. Where does Virginia rank in tempo?
The last.
Yep. I would have taken 358 out of 357 or just last. All of those are correct. So we knew that. Like Virginia's always going to play slow. Just what they do. They play great defense. They're giving up 54 a game right now. Scoring actually like 74, I think. But again, schedule's not really there. So my big concern for Virginia since day one has been I don't think that they have like a true go-to guy. Like let's run something for this guy. Let's throw the ball into this guy and let something happen. A lot of people thought it was going to be Hauser. I think he's very good. I just think he's more of a second fiddle than a go-to guy. Their bigs have clearly been the best, with Hauser and Jay Huff playing better than almost anybody on their team. But there's a lot left to be desired, I think, for this Virginia team. So what are you seeing when you look at Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, I think their offense is a little more creative than it has been in the past. I think that's more to a point that there's better guards with the ball in their hand, and there's not really the wing that they've had in the past, of like DeAndre Hunter, going back to like Mike Scott. Like they have a little bit less offensive talent than they've had in the past. So they got to be a little more creative offensively. They run a similar offense to Duke, just a little bit more. But I think overall they're just solid. They're not great at anything particular on offense. Defense are great, but offensively they're not. They're not like a crazy knockdown shooting team. They're not a crazy get to the rim, get easy shots. They just kind of do everything pretty well. I'm interested to see once they kind of get into at least next game, Gonzaga, where they're playing much better talent, and how that offense looks.
One team's trying to score 150 and the other one's trying to score 50.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit different that way. So I'm interested to see how they handle that. But right now, I think nothing's alarming to me, just because the best team besides San Francisco I think they played was, I think William Mary's a little bit better than they're playing right now, but Kent State being the best team that they played, they beat. So it's just hard to value what they're doing because of the talent gap.
Yeah. So my one thing, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, but like I would kind of like to see them try to push tempo every now and again. I don't want to see them be the number one tempo team in the country. Like by no means am I saying go from last to first, but like I think 4 of the 5 guys on the court at all times, if they get a rebound, can get it and go. Like Hauser's going to play their 4, and he can get it and push tempo himself. That they don't have to, like, it's not a team that has to find Key Clark and like Reese Beekman, anybody like that. Like whoever rebounds can pretty much go. So being that their offense looks the best, I think, when they get into a situation where the defense isn't exactly set the way that they want it to be, and then like say Hauser gets it and they push it to Clark really quick and they run the wing, and then Hauser just immediately sets a ball screen on a side that's cleared, and they just go a 2-on-1 ball screen and like hope you get something out of it. Because I think they are, like you said, they are creative with their offense. It just a lot of times nothing comes of it. Like the product doesn't result in what they want. So I think that they have like a lack of offensive talent where there's not a lot of guys that really are great offensive players. They're just really athletic and really strong and physical, which is why they turn out to be great defenders. And the system is obviously awesome for defense. But you can't I still believe you can't score 55 a game and go win a national championship. Like the team that Virginia had that won the title, 3 of those guys are in the NBA and they can all score in the NBA.
Yeah.
Well, Diakite was 4 now, but still, like you have to be able to score a little bit. So I just think pushing the tempo a little bit will help them out to get just easier looks. Like stop having to work so hard and work 30 seconds in the shot clock. And I still think their defense would be good with that because they're going to be good no matter what. They get back all the time.
Yeah, I don't think defense takes a hit if you speed it up a little bit. And I think they're smart where they can kind of pick and choose when they pick it up, the tempo. I mean, Clark, I think, is a really smart player. I mean, it's his 3rd year. He's played behind Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy. He kind of has a good understanding of the Virginia way. But I think his advantage, I mean, he's a small guard. He's listed at 5'9". He's maybe a little bit shorter. So it's hard for him to get a consistent offense in a set defense. I think he's really effective off of pick and roll when defense isn't set. So yeah, I completely agree. Having kind of a secondary break where he's getting it, and a Hauser or a Trey Murphy are setting that trail screen for him so he can get downhill. That's going to open up Jay Huff. He can be more of an offensive impact type of guy because he's rim running, and the lanes are more open, and ball handlers can get down to the paint. And he can be a vertical spacer. I mean, he's huge, 7'1". So I think they need to take advantage of Clark and Beekman, what they're good at, and that's getting downhill and getting them in positions where they can get downhill, not just in the set offense.
Yeah, so if you want to pull up the video, but a lot of times when they struggle, like Clark ends up at the top of the key forcing a late 3 or something offensive. Like if you look at the San Francisco game, they got nothing out of their offense, and it was just 4 shots after 4 shots late in the shot clock, 2-3 seconds left in the shot clock. But the stuff we're gonna look at is a little bit better than that.
Yeah. So start here again. They're doing the floppy offense. The double screens over here. They want Hauser to be the one coming off the second screen. So they have, I can't really tell. So he's coming off this. There we go. He's coming off the screen there. And then Hauser's going to come off Jay Huff. So they're running that floppy offense again. And what I like here is that Jay Huffy setting a flare screen. So that's something Duke doesn't do a ton of, is having that secondary action out of floppy. So he's going to set that flare screen. Hauser going to come strong side corner. I would like Trey Murphy to set a screen here. I think he kind of just stands there. For me as a coach, I want many little things you can do to make the defense have to focus on that specific task. So this is having him focus on getting over a screen rather than seeing where the ball is and getting to help. The more you can do that on the backside, the more things open up. But they do a good job of reversing it. Now they're getting a pick and roll, empty corner here. Murphy's in a decent spot again. I like to space as much as possible. Hauser's in a good spot in the corner.
The spacing
He's coming down.
Is so much different from the Duke film. Like this is the exact same thing they ran, but Duke had Wendell more like at the top of the key basically, and then Baker was like free throw line extended. So you can already tell the difference.
Right. So this is a disciplined team. They're all basically upperclassmen. They understand what spacing is at the college level. So this is, like you said, really good spacing here. And you can see Stewart couldn't come off that screen, or Roach, he couldn't come off that screen and get downhill. We got Clark coming downhill. He's already bailing on the drop coverage. And so this puts him in a spot where he can get paint touches. One of Villanova's staples on their offense is getting to the logo, this ACC logo. They want to get feet on the logo. Look at that. I don't know what the help defense that is, but he's super late. He's losing both sides. So he's not helping on Clark. He's also not guarding Trey Murphy. And then you got both bigs here, options there, and you can kick it out to Hauser's because he's helping down. But he gets into the lane. He's taking a 6-foot floater. This is just a good option out of floppy. Again, running it here. Almost the exact same play. They rescreen for Clark. Again, getting him now, he's in a pick and roll going empty corner. He's going actually toward the corner. So he puts him in a tough spot here. There's some action on the backside, which causes him to be late, and he can get in for a drop-off dunk there. So offensively, I think they're fine when they get the right spacing, when they're getting Clark and Beekman, as you see, he's coming. So he comes off a flat, makes a pass, comes off a flash screen, not open. Let me come back off another screen. He's really good when he's coming off this kind of action because his defender's already at a disadvantage right now. He's going to catch that. He's late. So now Clark has a step. He doesn't have to worry about making a move to get by him to get into the paint. And then he comes off another screen, gets in the paint. Anytime Clark can get into the paint, it's good for Virginia. Anything you want to add on their offense?
I think it's important. The only thing I'll say is I think it's important to surround Clark with shooters because like we saw a little bit in that last one, even though he still broke it down fine, but like everybody's going to go under his screens. Everybody's going to go like sag off as much as they can with Clark because he hasn't proven to be a great shooter. So like the reason for me that I want to see more Beekman, because if you put Beekman in that situation, there's even more spacing because now you got to fight over the top of screens. You're going to be in trail technique trying to get through screens. So I'm not saying don't play Clark, but like I think they both add different things where Clark needs to get downhill into the paint with the ball in his hands and like has to beat a defender to do so. Whereas if you just screen well, Beekman can just have space that way and then more stuff opens up. But like that's the same group that I was in. But like in this picture right here, you have Hauser, Old Intensai, and Murphy, all of which can have proven to be very good shooters. So this floor spacing is just the only thing that sticks out like a headlight with this offense.
Yeah, once they get the proper spacing, Clark can really break down a defense. And I think Beekman's going to be a guy that kind of follows the Clark path, but is more effective because of his shooting ability. But then moving more to their defensive side, I mean, they're back to normal. William Mary runs a Princeton offense. So this is the point series out of Princeton. So basically what that is a big gets the ball on the elbow. He gets a little pushed out a little bit because Huff just is physical. And then you have 4 out. What will happen is 5 here made the pass to the post. He's going to go set a screen here on Hauser. He has basically 3 options. He can go back door, he can curl, or he can come off into a dribble handoff here. And he's just making reads. Virginia does a really good job of taking away back door, but also being aggressive on handoffs. So he's going to come off a handoff here. Huff is going to hedge hard, get him to stop his momentum, dribbled back towards half court, and give Hauser enough time to get around. So now they're back set. We got great help side here, discouraging that pass. He ends up making it, but he gets into a spot where he can't do anything with it. And then anytime help side helps, you got to have a help the helper situation. So this backside guy's got to come over. He's just got to close out to whoever this guy passes it to. So he does a good job of getting that to that position. And they take away that so he can't hit that side where they have an advantage. They throw it back out. They get back set again. Come back, another hedge. Great help side and the backside, and they make have to take a tough shot because the shot clock's coming down. Again, same thing here. Their set defense is just really difficult because they're aggressive off screens and handoffs. Can't get downhill on those advantages, and then their help side is always in the right spot. So you see Hauser and Murphy are always in the right spot. You're just gonna have to make tough shots.
Yeah, so I mean, the 2 things Virginia always does, the hard hedge, which makes it almost impossible to make, well, you have to make a superhuman pass in order to get to a very likely scoring position. And then the double team on post touches. So like some of those were a little bit different where it was like a roller and then they double that. But even if you have your back to the basket and you throw it in, they're going to double every single time. And the reason they can do that is because like you just were showing, the help defenders are in, you couldn't, like if you put an X in the middle of the floor where you wanted your help defender to be, they'd be on it every single time. Like they are in picture perfect position. And And I was actually laughing to myself when you're showing the rolling videos because like every single time the roller would roll, the weak side defender just give him a little body shot with the forearm, like just to let you know you're there. And like I feel like Tony Bennett must just watch that and like laugh to himself, like, wow, look at my defense. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's rep after rep of shell in practice, just knowing positioning. Positioning is what makes a good defense. It's not about individual ability, it's effort and positioning. And Virginia, I mean, I think early in the season, I mean, we are still early in the season, but kind of the first couple games, their defense wasn't there because I think it was more of effort. But they're always going to be in the right spot. Their effort's there, and it's just really hard to score on that because if you're driving into two players into right help side, that you're gonna have to make some unreal reads and complex reads to really break down that defense and get them moving. So defensively they're fine. Offensively, they just have to be a little bit more consistent on attacking closeouts and getting spots where they can kind of attack the backside and get feet into the paint like Villanova does, attack that logo, and they'll have a lot more success.
Yeah, so they play Saturday, I think like mid-afternoon against Gonzaga, and you're going to learn a lot about either team, really, probably both teams. Um, I they're going to have to Virginia has to score in order to win that game. Like I think their defense is going to play well, but Gonzaga is going to score. All right, so last and most certainly least, very least, North Carolina. Sitting at 5-3 right now, losses to Texas, Iowa, and NC State most recently last night. But wins over Kentucky and Stanford, two pretty good wins. Even though Kentucky is now 1-5 since the last time we've talked. Stanford is still a good team, also. But for me, when you think of North Carolina, other than giving up threes to opposing teams, such as what happened against Iowa, they run a lot. They have two bigs, they rebound the ball really well, and they run. This year, don't run at all. 86th in tempo, which might as well be dead last for North Carolina. I think Roy is probably rolling over in his office with that. Um, I think the reason for that is they average 16 turnovers a game, and that's very high. So I think they're trying to limit the turnovers by slowing the tempo down. But I don't think they're good enough to slow the tempo down, as you're going to see with these offensive clips. But the other thing is playing two bigs is really hard sometimes because floor spacing isn't there when you play two bigs. To couple that, they're shooting 26% from three. And that's mostly because you have a lot of minutes coming from Leaky Black, who really can't shoot beyond the free throw line extended. RJ Davis has not shot the ball well. Caleb Love has been very inconsistent. So everything that they want to do offensively is just killed by what they're doing right now. And until they make shots, the too big thing is going to be hard to deal with, I think, for them at all times, unless they just run their secondary break, which has been so good for so long.
Yeah, they just have to be more creative with the two bigs. I think the two bigs can work for them. It's just um, they kind of float, and we'll see that in the film. They just kind of float around, and they're not sure where to go. When one of the bigs gets the ball in the post, they kind of just float around. There's no direct action for them, and then shooters aren't spacing. You'll find them a lot of times inside the 3-point arc. And anytime you're inside the three-point arc, that just has the defense closer to the rim and protecting that. So their inability to knock shots down, but not be able to space the floor either, really harms them offensively. And they're not pushing the envelope when they get chances in transition off a make or a miss. They're pushing it, but as soon as they get some sort of pushback, someone cuts the ball off or um, they show a little bit of pressure. Like NC State had a half of a press where they just threw out one guy just to be like, all right, I'm here. And they didn't run because of that. And just pushing that envelope a little bit more, trying to get into the paint early into the clock. If you don't have it, you're just going to go to a post up anyway. You don't need a ton of time for that. So I'd like to see them more, yeah, like you said, just get in transition, get easy shots, get guys confidence. Like Leaky Black, I don't think has any confidence right now. Same with RJ Davis. Like get him easy shots, get him to the free throw line, get him to the rim early in the game, and just run. I mean, catch the ball and go. Doesn't matter if there's pressure or not. If you get cut off, move the ball. Like, have that as kind of 7 seconds or less mentality. Because right now half court offense is really, really not working for UNC.
Yeah, so if you want to start the video, but they're good at, so they've always had two bigs. Like they're always trying to play two bigs, and the bigs are really good at playing together usually. We'll negate that in a second, but they're like there's secondary break, which you'll see because they align it perfectly. But like they'll have somebody in the corner. Then on ball side, they'll have the second big, either the 4 or the 5, whoever doesn't rim run runs to the top of the key, and then they have another wing in the corner. And the ball either goes corner, and then they try to throw it in to the big who's sealing. So like the first play will show you Garrison Brooks is the big, or they swing it back to the big at the top of the key, and they can go high low and try to throw it down low, which typically works for them. Or they throw it to the other corner, and then again Garrison Brooks has a sealed. So literally the big just rim runs and tries to seal wherever he can seal the defender. They just go with the ball to that side and then try to throw it in. But it wasn't really working very well.
All right, so we had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we're back. And so, like Zach was saying with the secondary break, it's just a traditional secondary break. Just fill the corners, have a rim runner and a trailer. But right here, we'll see their half court offense, and their spacing. So they do a good job of getting Garrison Brooks on the block is what they want, on the single side. But so, I mean, where they start is just a really high pick and roll. I'm fine with this. Give space. I'd like to see him to get a little bit closer to Brooks and get downhill to make him go under the screen. But he does a good job pressuring here. This is fine, just a dribble pitch here. With an exchange where Leaky Lex can come up to the top of the key for the ball reversal. And now you got 1-on-1. That's fine. Get the ball in. Now look at the backside. I'll even go back a little bit. So before he passes it out, we got Armando Bacot at the elbow. Can't tell who that is.
RJ Davis and then
RJ
Caleb Love.
Yeah, and Caleb Love. So he's inside the 3-point line. Caleb Love is right on top of him. And Leaky Black's going to go join them. So gets the ball there. And now you got 4 guys just kind of no man's land.
Party at the foul line.
Right, exactly. So the spacing is a real issue here. You just need one guy over here to protect the swing. So Garrison Brooks can't throw any kind of skip pass because he's here. But then you can have everyone else in help. You got a shot blocker here. You got another help side defender. So no matter what Garrison Brooks does, he doesn't have an advantage, even though he's 1-on-1. So he's literally doesn't care what Baycot's going to do because the ball's here. He's going to attack. And Baycott decides to go right to him, leaves him in help side. And then RJ Davis, I'm not sure why he's standing there. He needs to get outside the 3-point line.
Because he's shooting like 15.5% from 3.
That's fine. Like, even if you're a terrible shooter, like being outside the 3-point line makes the defense think a little bit to like, because if Brooks throws it out, they have to close out. They have to get out to him, even if they're closing out short. Like, they have to respond to that. But if he's there, this is just, I'm going to focus on the post up here. I mean, what is Garrison Brooks supposed to do here? He's got nothing he can do. We got Caleb Love coming around. This is a good action here. But the other 2 guys are really clogging things up. And he gets an offensive foul because of it. And then here's more of what Zach was talking about, the secondary break. So NC State shows somebody, and then it's over. RJ doesn't try to get any sort of penetration, so he gets it here. And so when you have off a made basket, so we got Sharp here, he's going to trail. Garrison Brooks is the rim runner. He's right about here. We got Johnson, who's just way too narrow. When you want to fill the corners, you want to be the two wings to be 2 to 3 feet at max from the sideline so they can really space it. He doesn't get too far off the lane line extended. He gets a little bit outside of it. That's too narrow, and he runs to kind of the mid-range post, which I'm not sure what he's expecting to do there. So you got the rim runner here. You got opposite side running. He's doing a good job of getting out to that wing. And RJ's got to just put more pressure. If Johnson gets out wider, he has more of a lane, but he has to put pressure on him. He's backpedaling. Sharp has to be a little bit closer too, to give a little bit more of an outlet. But he has to put more pressure on the defense than just pulling it out here at about 35 feet. That's not going to do anything for you. So then they get into their offense. They go to a 1-4 high, kind of a little bit of a horn.
A little bit to the end of it, like where Brooks is still posting out. All right, so like traditional North Carolina offense, like a few years ago, this ball would have either gone, they would have exchanged Deron Sharp and RJ Davis, where RJ could have had a better entry pass, or they would have swung it to Sharp, who could have gone high-low, which I would have probably hated because I don't think he can make that pass. Or realistically, the ball should go in the corner to Walton, who could throw it in. Because, like, if you look at Brooks, he has the defender sealed where the ball should enter on the left side of the court. So, like, Roy Williams would be so happy with this ball going directly into the preseason ACC Player of the Year, who is literally their only offensive presence on the court right here. That's besides their two shooters that are just there to space the floor. But instead, you can even tell Garrison Brooks is a little bit frustrated here because RJ is going to literally touch his foot on the three-point line and then just dribble back out.
I mean, he doesn't even get to the 3-point line. That's how, like, they're not pushing the ball. And you see here, I mean, you're down 14. It's not like you're protecting a lead. You want to get the ball and go. Needs to put pressure. Again, Johnson's just no man's land here. You catch the ball, what are you going to do with it? It's a tough shot because he doesn't have to close out. He's right there, but he's also in help side. So this is the worst spot you can be. And yeah, I mean, just swinging it here for a high-low. Sharp's just late. He needs to get there a little bit earlier. He's the only one in the right spot, and Brooks. So their secondary break needs some work. Now they get into a 1-4 high, clear out into a side pick and roll. And again, spacing's terrible. He's got to come down, set this screen. He's going to pop out, but they're going to come off flat, and he's got no chance to get into the paint. Got help side right here. Sharp's not going to be knocking down any 22-footers anytime soon. And then you got two guys just sitting in the paint. So help side's right there because Sharp's here.
5 people in the paint right now on defense too.
Yep, like they can play a perfect pack line defense against North Carolina because North Carolina just stands inside the 3-point line. Again here, good back door. These guys get mixed up. One should be the one helping. He shouldn't have followed all the way out. And they end up scoring here. But again, their spacing is just troublesome. And they're going to have a lot of issues. And then defensively, this is where I'm really concerned with North Carolina. Is their just ability to stop any kind of penetration and having late help side. So Leaky Black's just late here altogether, following him around this dribble handoff. And then Garrison Brooks, he's in great help side right now. He's in a perfect spot. You just got to step over, take one slide step or a couple steps over, and he stops that penetration early. But he ends up dropping. And he just opens up his hips, is late, shuffling down the middle of the lane for some reason, even though the ball's coming straight downhill. And he contests inside the arc. So he's late. Leaky Black doesn't get there until the paint. And then strong side corner, he has to come all the way in to help, and that's an open 3 if he can't get to the rim. So on-ball defense is bad, help side defense is bad, and the guy you don't want helping out has to help out. And even RJ Davis is in a bad spot. So defensively, they just give up paint touches really easily and have late help. So NC State and all the teams they've been playing have been getting really easy buckets. and not wide open shots. Here, again, a simple ball screen. They're clearing out. He's going empty side corner. He does a good job of just recognizing it and staying and lifting up. But now RJ Davis has to realize that and drop. He stays with his guy. He's just going to fill to the corner. He doesn't see that. He does a good job of getting to the logo. Good hesitation. RJ Davis just doesn't realize that Caleb Love is helping, and he's got to help the helper. So they're just not disciplined defensively. Just makes me really worried for North Carolina.
Worried? You should be happy. All right, so those are our fixes for the 3 teams that are kind of struggling at the top of the ACC right now. Probably going to do a lot more of this because you can only do stock up, stock down of so many teams throughout the NCAA season. But we started with the ACC mostly because I think these 3 teams kind of had high hopes, and at least so far, they're ranked 16th, 20th, and close to 25. Not very good, but I think that there's a decent amount of talent on the court for all teams. So to end this, I just have one question for you. If you were a coach of any of these 3 teams, which one would you rather be coaching for right now? With like Virginia. The expectation of you're only there for 1 year trying to win a national championship.
Virginia. I think
wrong.
There's all right, North Carolina. For me, Virginia has 1 or 2 little things. They have plenty of talent. They have the right kind of roster. I think, and they have experience. I think they have a better chance of making the national championship, whereas Duke is relying on basically all freshman guards outside the gold wire. They have, and they're all small, so it's very kind of nuances you have to do to get them going offensively. So that's a little bit challenging. In North Carolina, it's just bad on offense, bad on defense. It's a lot to work on. So for me, Virginia, I think is the closest to and the best out of this group right now. And I think it's Virginia and Duke are kind of close, whereas North Carolina's got a really long way to go.
Well, that's all I needed to hear during this podcast. So most likely the next one will be Big Ten, just because that's kind of the next group of good teams that are struggling at this point. But as always, remember to share and subscribe and rate and all those good things of the podcast. And thank you for listening.